didn't think this was going to become one of those stories I would still be thinking about years later. At the time, it felt like just another short-term escape. Nothing dramatic. Nothing unusual. Just a break from everything I didn't want to deal with anymore. Work had been consuming me for months. I wasn't even sure I could call it stress anymore. It had become a background condition of my life. Something always present, but never fully acknowledged. That's probably why I ignored the first warning. Because I was already used to ignoring things. The listing looked normal at first. Too normal, actually. A small cabin surrounded by dense trees. Simple interior. Wooden structure. Clean photos, almost overly clean. No clutter. No personal items. That kind of listing usually falls into two categories. Either it's a professional rental, or something is being hidden very carefully. I didn't think about that at the time. The host responded within seconds of my booking. Not minutes. Seconds. That should have been my first real pause, but I told myself that maybe he had notifications on. Maybe it was a managed property. His message came in a structured format. No greeting, no warmth. Just instructions. Check-in time. Door access. Wi-Fi. Parking. Then a final line that didn't match the rest: do not open the basement door under any circumstances. That line stayed on my screen longer than I expected. Not because it scared me, but because it felt strangely specific. Most hosts don't mention basements at all unless asked. And even then, they don't phrase it like a rule. They phrase it like a limitation. This was different. This was a restriction. Almost like a test. I arrived later than planned. The road was worse than expected, and at some point I stopped checking maps altogether. The deeper I drove, the more the environment changed. Not dramatically. Subtly. Trees became denser. Light became inconsistent. Even the sense of distance felt distorted, like the road was longer than it should have been. I remember glancing at the time once. Then not again. That was unusual for me. When I finally arrived, the cabin was already lit. Porch light on. Interior lights faintly visible through curtains. I didn't remember being told that someone would be there before me. I checked the reservation again. Self-check-in. Entire property. No mention of occupancy. The door was unlocked. That should have been the moment I left. But instead, I convinced myself it was part of the system. A lockbox issue. A rural convenience. I stepped inside. And immediately noticed something that didn't match any rental I had stayed in before. The silence wasn't natural. It felt controlled. Not just quiet. Engineered quiet. Like sound had been removed, not absent. The interior smelled clean. But not fresh. There is a difference. Fresh cleaning has layers of scent, soap, detergent, air, fabric. This was stripped. Neutralized. Like someone had intentionally removed evidence of life. Even dust patterns felt wrong. Too uniform. Too recent. The basement door was located near the kitchen hallway. I saw it immediately. It was already slightly open. Not wide. Just enough to expose darkness inside. I paused without moving closer. Trying to reconstruct whether I had seen it open in the listing photos. I couldn't remember. That uncertainty bothered me more than clarity would have. I approached and pushed it gently. It closed, but didn't latch. I tried again. Same result. That small mechanical failure stayed in my mind longer than it should have. Because it wasn't just broken. It felt used. Like something had recently been forcing it open repeatedly. While I cooked dinner, I became aware of a pattern I didn't initially recognize. Every few minutes, I would unconsciously glance toward the hallway. Not because I heard anything, but because I expected something to be there. That expectation itself felt implanted, like my attention was being trained. At one point, I noticed something else. The porch light outside flickered once. Then stabilized. I didn't think much of it. But later I would realize that it only flickered when I moved toward certain parts of the house. At the time, I ignored it. because it didn't yet feel connected. The first sound came late. A soft knock. From below. Not the door. The floor. One single impact. Then silence. I stopped what I was doing immediately. Listened. Nothing followed. That was worse than repetition. Because repetition can be explained. Singular events cannot. I checked the basement door again. It was closed. But this time, I was certain I hadn't been the one to close it. That realization didn't come with panic. It came with delay. A slow recognition that something had already changed without my involvement. I went upstairs earlier than planned. Sleep didn't come easily. Not because I was scared, but because I felt observed. That sensation is difficult to explain logically. It's not visual. It's not auditory. It's structural. Like the space around you is aware of your position. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. The hallway light was on, not bright. Dim but clearly active. I did not remember turning it on. I stayed still in bed, waiting for explanation. None came. Then I heard movement downstairs. This time, I focused on distinguishing it. It wasn't random noise. It followed spacing. Intentional pacing. Like someone was counting time through movement. That detail changed everything about how I interpreted the house. Because it meant presence. Not possibility. I checked my phone. No signal. Still. But now I noticed something else. The battery had dropped significantly faster than normal. That wasn't immediately alarming, but it contributed to a growing pattern of inconsistency. When I opened the bedroom door slightly, the hallway was empty. But the basement door was now fully open. Wider than before. And this time, I could see something faint inside. Not movement. Light reflection. Like something metallic catching illumination from within. I stood at the top of the stairs for several seconds. Not moving. Not deciding. Just observing. That moment of stillness felt longer than it should have. As if time itself was being delayed. When I finally descended, the temperature shifted noticeably. Not colder in a natural sense. More controlled. Like stepping into a space that had been intentionally isolated from the rest of the building. That's when I saw the second structure. A reinforced metal door embedded into the basement wall. It was not part of the cabin design. It looked installed after construction. Industrial. Out of place. The keypad next to it was already active. That detail changed everything. Because nothing I had done should have triggered it. Nothing I had touched should have activated it. And yet it was waiting. My phone vibrated. Once. A message from the host. You are entering a space you were not cleared for. I looked around immediately. No one visible. No movement. But something subtle changed in the environment. The basement door above me slowly began to close. Not abruptly. Carefully. Like it was being controlled remotely. That was the first time I felt actual urgency. Not fear. Urgency. I turned to leave. And that's when I noticed something on the wall near the stairs. A small mounted device. Not a camera. Something older. Possibly audio. Possibly motion triggered. Its indicator light turned on as I looked at it. I left the basement immediately. Not running at first. Just fast walking, then running. Only when I reached the outside did I realize how hard I was breathing. And how cold the air outside felt compared to inside. Like the house had been holding something back. I drove without checking mirrors. At some point, I stopped thinking in sentences. Only fragments. Doors. Basement. Light. Message. Controlled. The next morning, the listing was gone. Not deactivated. Removed entirely. No record. No host history. No property ID. Airbnb support responded with a standard verification failure message. No escalation. No explanation. Just procedural closure. I tried to rationalize it later. Old cabin. malfunctioning systems, stress perception, memory distortion. But none of those explanations account for the consistency of small details. The timing. The synchronization. The way certain things changed only when I wasn't directly observing them. And sometimes I still think about that metal door. Not what was behind it, but how long it had already been active before I ever arrived. And whether the message from the host wasn't meant to warn me, but to confirm that I had already been included in a system I never agreed to enter. Because the strangest part isn't what I saw that night. It's how quickly everything stopped existing afterward. As if it was never meant to be found at all.